No, it's the first.
Yeah. Usually Ellen is on there pretty
I
early.
should
So
got COVID too.
did you call and see how she's doing? Are you coming with me? We have to work out a time. We're gonna go visit
Whenever
Hi,
you
Bernie.
in the
Hi,
afternoon.
Tammy.
Hi, Mario. Good dag.
Hi, Ellen, how you feeling? Are you better?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm fine.
Yeah, you finished?
Well, I had one more dose of the medication, but I basically since yesterday I've been feeling normal.
Oh, wonderful.
That's good.
So you're ready for Mahjong again?
Okay, Bernie, you're a doctor. When should I take the test? Should I take?
No, you shouldn't take the PCR anymore.
I didn't do a PCR. I only did a home test.
Yeah, you can do the rapid.
And if that shows negative, what does that mean?
That you're okay?
That you don't transmit the infection.
Okay, so once I show negative, all right,
Ellen, you look better.
I'll try. No complaints, Baruch Hashem. I mean, it's being stuck in the house is a little annoying already.
Yep.
How about Esty? How's she doing?
She's also been stuck in the house, but she's okay today.
Okay, good. Basically, like I had a reaction, the first 2 days were pretty nasty, but after that it was like a head cold. Okay, Baruch Hashem, it wasn't any worse. So let me get my safer. Okay.
Peggy,
How are you?
good, and you?
Good.
Peggy.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Hi, Faggy.
Good. Hi, how are you, Mario?
Okay.
Good, good.
So good to see people's faces.
Faggy, did Dr. Levy take Ellie home?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, very good.
I know, Ira just called.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, we were wondering.
Hi, Magda. Hi, Harold.
Good luck.
Buddy,
Hello. Ellen, how you feeling like me? How you doing?
Good.
good, but
You're going to Ellen.
I know.
Good.
So, what you?
You see, I can't see. You have the light glare.
Yeah, you're shining a light in our face.
It's weird. That's the Shechina shining on Esty.
Oh, that makes sense.
What happened? Yeah.
I heard the Kiddush was nice today.
Very nice.
What?
Yeah,
The Kiddush for Rachel Ginsburg.
yeah, it was very nice. Yeah.
Oh, we also had a very nice Kiddush in Yavne.
For
Walter's father's yahrzeit.
Oh,
A few other things.
the Shama should have an Aliyah.
Amen. Ernie, you do this year tonight. Sing the Yotzad is tonight also. Yotzad for Shmuel ben Avram Gedalia.
The learning should be Shmuel ben Avram Gedalia Feinblum, Walter's father, and the Shama should have an Aliyah.
I'm sure Aliyah.
Amen.
Perek Tess.
Not the light like this.
Last week, David HaMelech is establishing his kingdom. He went out and conquered Ammon and Moab and Edom, and the end of the pasuk describes his administration. Perek Tess is not, we've been seeing an analog in Divrei Hayomim. This perek is not mentioned in Divrei Hayomim. Mr. Fortune say because Ezra, who wrote Divrei Hayomim, wrote various things that had to do with the establishment of Malchus Beis David. and not regarding David HaMelech's private life.
Yeah, Ernie, where are we holding?
Perek Tes, Shmuel
Okay.
Beis, Perek Tes, 9.
Yeah.
Vayomer David, "Achi yesh od asher nota lebeit Shaul." David asks, there's a machlokas whether this occurs before he does all the battles or it's after the battles. But he asks, is there anybody left in the house of Shaul HaMelech? Efei imo chesed bavur Yonatan. Remember, the Radak brings that he made a shvua to Yehonatan, that if there was a person descended from Yonatan who was fit for Malchus or in government, I am a manoto. In Shmuel Aleph, Kaf Gimel, it says, "Vanochi yelecha lemishneh." Yonatan said to David, I would work with you. So now David HaMelech remembers this and wants to do chesed with the family of Shaul.
There's nothing you can do, it's on the wall.
And from this Radak, it seems that this is after, a few years after David HaMelech is ruling. He's in Yerushalayim, not at the beginning. Now, how could it be that David HaMelech doesn't know that there's any family left for Shaul? His wife is Michal. So the Malbim explains that, you know, in the history of kings, when a king becomes powerful, so he would kill out brothers, other family members to prevent revolution, rebellion. So Shaul's family is hiding out as long as they don't know that David is going to be friendly to them. It's one shot, says the Malbim. And others hold that the family of Shaul, Ishboshet, remember they were done as Moired b'Malchus, and they were Chayv Misa. So they were afraid of David. So Ulubeit Shaul Eved Ushmot Tziva. So there was a Eved Knani, not a Jewish slave, a non-Jewish slave that you can purchase. And Tziva was the Eved Knani for the house of Shaul. Vayikru David, he was called to David. Vayomer Melech Elav Ha'atat Tziva Vayomer Avdecha. He asks, are you this Tziva? And he admits this, yes, I am Tziva. And he wanted to know, are you still an Eved? That means you weren't freed. Remember, a Jew who owns an Eved Knani can free an Eved. Now, by saying, no, I'm still Avdecha, because an Eved Knani who would be freed, he would change his name. He would take a Jewish name, Avram, because there's a conversion involved. So the Meforshim explained that by answering that he's an Eved, that he's still an Eved Knani. Now, other Meforshim ask, you're not allowed to free a slave. How did David HaMelech have Avami that Shaul freed him? It says, La'olam bahem ta'avodu, you should work in Eved Knani forever. So you don't have to free a slave, you could be mafkir them. If you are mafkir your assets, if you say, all of my assets are hefker, so then the Eved Knani goes free as well.
Ernie, is it possible that he's using the word Eved in the terms of subservient to the king? Because we've often seen, for example, the Nevi'im saying Eved Hashem or Eved Melech instead of it being an Eved Kanani.
Here it refers to him being an Eved Kanani, because we have other psukim that he was an Eved Kanani to the house of Shaul. He remains an Eved Kanani. That's the dialogue going on here. By saying I'm still an Eved means he was not freed. There was no hefker, and there was no meshuchra. And so we'll see. An Eved Kanani is owned, it's an asset that's owned by the family. And we'll see later on in this parak that there's further evidence for that. Gimel. Vayomer Melech ha'efes od ish lebeit Shaul. He asks Tziva, is there another soul left in the house of Shaul? Ve'asei mo chesed Elokim. Vayomer Tziva lamelech od ben laho Yonatan nechei raglayim. There is this child of Yonatan, he's a cripple. And we see from this language that Tziva is trying to minimize the value of the son of Yonatan. He didn't even say his name. He wanted to rise up in the house of David, meaning the Eved himself. So David doesn't want any part of it. So David gets right to the point. Where is he? He is in the house of Machir in a place called Lo Davar. And that's the pshat, that it's a place. But the Abarbanel says, he's a poor nobody, doesn't have anything. Lo Davar, he doesn't have anything, that he doesn't own anything. Again, he's trying to minimize the value of the son of Yonatan in David's eyes. It means he went to a house, nobody even knows him, in a little village. Now, we're going to see that this Machir is somebody who is going to help David in the future when he escapes from Avshalom.
What would be the motivation of Tziva to minimize?
Because he wants to become like an Eved to David HaMelech.
He also controlled all the lands that Shaul had owned previously, and because of his, because the son of he was a cripple, he could not come and oversee his own lands. Therefore, Tziva and his family were living off the produce from the lands of Shaul at that time.
Listen to this Chazal in Masechta Shabbos Nun Vav. Rav Amar, Kibel David Lashon Hara. David was a Makabel Lashon Hara, meaning you're not allowed to speak Lashon Hara, but you're not allowed to receive it either. And Chazal sort of point out here David HaMelech accepted Lashon Hara. Dichsiv. Vayomer Tziva LaMelech, Hineu Beit Machir ben Amiel B'lo Davar. Rashi says, B'lo Davar Eino Chacham B'Torah. That Tziva was saying he has no Torah knowledge. And then eventually, they're going to call Mepiboshet, who is this son of Yonatan. And David HaMelech is going to see that he is a great Talmid Chacham. And then he saw that this Tziva is a shakran, is a liar.
There is other Chazal that say that there's an alternate writing for Lo
Davar?
Lo Davar, Milo Davar, with a mem means he's full of words of wisdom, words of Torah.
Right. Like, well, it says in Brachos, Dalid Omer Aleph, Omer David, Komashani Oisani Nimlach Lepiposes Rebbe. Anything that I decide, I ask from my Rebbe Mepiboshes. The Omer Lo Mepiboshes Rebbe, Yafedanti, Yafechiyavti, Yafezachisi, Yafetiarti, Yafetimesi. He would ask Mepiboshes, did I judge correctly? Did I make the person chayev or innocent or tohor? V'lo boshti, and I was not embarrassed. Right? Lo Mepiboshet shmo, eli ish boshet shmo. Lama nikra shmo Mepiboshet, shai mavayish pnei David balacha. David was embarrassed in front of Mepiboshet. Because how great of a Talmid Chacham he was. The Marsha says that that Mepiboshet is the son of Yonatan. Rabbeinu Tam says no, that it's really Ishboshet, the son of Shaul. But that's a different story. But we see that Tziva is playing fast and loose with David.
But why?
Because he wants a high position with David. He doesn't know what David wants with the son yet, but he wants to minimize. He's a nobody.
Right, but if what's it called? I lost my train of thought for a second. Mephibosheth, why was David Makabel Lashon Hara? He just asked him about his master. He didn't know that he's going to say something negative.
But you're a makabel. Is inehu beit machir ben amiyah below davar. So if someone tells you a lashon hara, you're a makabel lashon hara. So that's why people put their earlobes in their ear. They don't want to hear anything because if someone tells you a lashon hara, you're a makabel lashon hara.
So you get punished for being told something that you had no control over what they were going to say.
By the way, even the person that the lashon hara is spoken about is part of the. He's the most innocent, but Chazal say that there are three components to lashon hara: the one who's speaking it, the one who receives it, and the one who's being spoken about. That's why you're supposed to be very humble, not to show. Why are people so concerned about an ayin hara? Keep quiet, keep low. Don't show yourself. So everybody is part and parcel of this act of lashon hara, including the one who receives it. Pasuk Hey, Vayishlach HaMelech David vayikachem mibeit Machir ben Amiyel melo davar. So he brings Mephibosheth to Yerushalayim. Vayavo Mephibosheth ben Yonatan ben Sholel David. He comes, vayipol al panav vayishtachu. He bows. Vayomer David Mephibosheth vayomer hinei avdecha. He says, "Are you Mephibosheth? Yes, I am your servant." So number one, there's a din. The Rambam brings when a Klal Yisrael member comes to stand in front of the king, there's a din in Jewish law to bow to the king. Some people say that in Divrei Hayomim, Mephibosheth's name was Meri Baal or Merir Baal. And the Mephibosheth is based on that Chazal that David was embarrassed by the greatness of his Torah. Vayomer lo David, al tira, you have no reason to be afraid. I'm going to do chesed to you because of my great friendship with your father Yonatan. There are no more family left. So he gives all of the fields and land that belong to Shaul to Mephibosheth. Besides that, you will be an eater on my table. You're always invited to eat by me. Now, the Radak asks a kasha, what type of chesed is this? If these are the assets of Shaul and he's the only Yoresh, so what did David do? What kind of chesed did David do? This is by halacha, he's the Yoresh. So the Radak answers that really David HaMelech, he was the one who was zoiche in Nachlas Shaul. Because Ishboshet v'chol Beit Shaul ayu mordim b'malchus. Shaul's son Ishboshet, they carried on a rebellion against him. Ki haya yadu l'chol Yisrael sheDavid yeh melech l'chol Yisrael achrei misa Shaul v'gam nimshach ha'yidei hanavi. Klal Yisrael knew that David was going to be the king. They knew that Shmuel had anointed him. So he's going to be choizer the nechasim that basically he inherited as the king who could get this asset because they were more b'malchus, because minadin they belonged to him, and he gave him back to Mephibosheth. That's how the Radak learns. So it was a chesed. Vayishtachu, vayomer me avdecha. Who am I? Says Mephibosheth, ki fanita el hakelev hamet asher kamoni. That you turned your face to a dead dog like me. Now, isn't it interesting that when David HaMelech, when Shaul HaMelech was chasing David, Shmuel Aleph Perek Chaf Dalet, Posuk Yud Dalet. David says to Shaul, who are you chasing after? Achrei mi yatsa melech Yisrael, achrei mi ata rodef, achrei kelev mate? Are you chasing after a dead dog? Achrei parosh after a flea? So we see the hashgach of Hashem, how the wheel turns. That now the same language is being spoken to David when he's on top. Vayikra, Pasuk Tes, Vayikra melech el Tziva nar shal vayomer elav. So David calls to Tziva this Eved. Kol asher hayah l'Shaul u'chol beito natati leven Adonecha. Everything that belonged to Shaul, like now I've given to the son of Yonasan. Now, who does Tziva belong to? He now belongs to Mephibosheth. Because anything that Shaul owned, now he gave to Mephibosheth. One of the things that Shaul owned was the Eved Knani. We don't have a concept of such a thing because we don't have Abdus anymore. But an Eved Knani was owned by the person who bought him. So in fact, the Meforshim say that's why he called him a Nar, because David saw that Tziva was being Mezalzel Mephibosheth. So now you're the Eved of Mephibosheth. And the Rashi, Hamelech Rishai Lavir Nachla, Shneamar and Shmuel Aleph, Bamishpat Hamlucha et Sadoichem et Skarmechem Yikach V'Natan Lavadam. Walter today laid the Haftorah about Shmuel and his final discussions with Klal Yisrael, where Shmuel says, "I didn't take anything from you, and I didn't steal anything from you, not even a chamor, nothing." And then David, in that same, not in this Haftorah, but in another parak, warns Klal Yisrael that if you appoint a king, this king's going to be able to take your lands and take your fields. So Rashi is basically explaining the chesed that David did with Mephibosheth the way I explained before, that he was able to move the Yerush of Shaul either because he owned it, like the Radak said, or because the king had the methodology to do that. Says Yud, v'yavada talot hadaman, and you, Tziva, will work the land. Atal vanecha v'avadecha, you and your children who are also avodim. An Eved Knani who had children, they belonged to the master. The food that you raise, you bring to your master Mephibosheth so he can eat. But he doesn't even need that. Because Mephibosheth ben Adonecha yuchal tamid lechem al shulchani. Mephibosheth has the right to eat whatever he wants on my table. Uletziva chamisha asar bonim ve'esrim avodim. Tziva had 15 sons who were also avodim, and 20 other servants.
Why would they trust Tziva? He tried to minimize his owner. He's not exactly a very loyal person.
Okay. Let's keep all that in mind.
Okay.
But right now,
Maybe he minimized his owner because he thought that maybe David would want to kill him. So it made him like he's a nothing. What's to
you're
kill
thinking
him?
maybe he was trying to protect him.
Yeah.
Protect him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's got to do with getting a job at David.
Well, the Meforshim who
I get what you're saying.
Said he wanted to be on top.
But remember, this was Shaul's estate. It was probably a big piece of property that needed all these people working it. So they were in place. So
Yeah, but he
just told
also
them that
hid
the king.
Mephibosheth, no? He hid him.
Vayomer Tziva lamelech. Kechol asher yitzaver rimech l'savdo ken yasavdecha. So Tziva agrees to all of it. David HaMelech, you commanded, and so shall it be. U'Mephibosheth ochel al shulchani ka'achad mibnei HaMelech. And Mephibosheth will eat on my table like one of my own sons. Again, we see the loyalty of David, right? The various statements he made to Yehonatan when he was alive. I think the Navi is teaching us David HaMelech is a man of his word, and he's showing the chesed where he needed to. Ula Mepiboshet ben Kotnu Shmo Micha. Mepiboshet also had a son, Micha. It all now belongs to Mepiboshet. Therefore, Mepiboshet Yoshev Yerushalayim. Ki al shulchan hamelech tamidu ochel. Because he had the right to eat on David's table, he had to live in Yerushalayim. V'hu pisech shtei ragla. He limped on two legs. One of the reasons why, if you remember, that nobody was concerned about him because of his disability. Even though most of the people, L'chura, the Kli Yakar says the people who came to David HaMelech's table are the mighty and the great, the beautiful, right? Who comes to a king's table? You know, the princes, the powerful, but they want to point out Mepiboshet was also invited, even though he was a limper. He had a mum. Because again, to show that David was Makayim his neder because of his love for Yehonasab.
So Ernie, you previously mentioned is because of the ability to speak Torah on David HaMelech's table at every meal. He valued Mepiboshet because of the level of his learning.
There you go. There you go. I think it's a very good shot. Perek Yud. By the way, just to give everybody a little taste, next, if we finish Perek Yud tonight, we will start, God willing, Yud Aleph next week, which is the story of David and Bathsheba. So, which is a very important episode. Leads to, of course, Shlomo HaMelech, and it's a very controversial story in the history of David HaMelech. So, Perek Yud.
Maybe David, besides being faithful to Jonathan, he also inherited the chesed from his ancestor Ruth, because the whole book of Ruth is about chesed.
That's
so maybe
nice.
something rubbed down the line.
Nice shot. Because of the connection to Ruth, which is Kulo Chesed.
Right.
Kulo Chesed. She goes with Naomi, she didn't have to. And Boaz was an old man.
Right.
Okay, very good. So it's in his genes.
In his genes, right.
In his genes. Vayach Rechein, Perek Yud. Vayamat Melech Bnei Ammon. Nachash Bnei Ammon died. Vayimloch Hanun b'no tachtav, and his son Hanun is appointed king. What's the connection? What does this have to do with anything? Because the next pasuk, Vayomer David eseh chesed im Hanun ben Nachash. I am going to do chesed. Kasher asa avivi madi chesed. We're going to see. If you remember, David deposits his parents to Melech Moab, and he kills them. One of his brothers runs away, and he hides with Nachash Melech Ammon. That's the chesed that Nachash did to David's family. So David wants to return and be Menachem Avel. He wants to be Menachem
By the way,
Avel.
that's also in today's Torah. Shmuel talks about Nachash.
Right? So, well, there, Nachash was one of the, at that time, he attacked Klai from one of the
Well,
Shoftim.
he attacked. That's why. That's
One of the Shoftim saved them from Nachash.
right.
But this is a long relationship. By David HaMelech's time,
But it's obviously it's the same Nachash.
same Nachash, Nachash Melech Ammon. So he says, Kasher asav Avid imadi chesed, vayishlach David lenachamo biyad avadav laviv. He sent servants to be Menachem Avel, vayavo avdei David eret pnei Ammon. So that's how the Meforshim explain that the perek we just learned is the chesed that David is doing with the Chayim. And now the chesed that he's going to do is with the Mesim. Now, the Meforshim explain like this. It says by Moab and Ammon in the Torah, Lo tidrosh shlomam v'tovotam. You shouldn't be looking out for their good, meaning don't go say shalom aleichem to them. How could David violate this pasuk? Go b'menachem Avel. Not only
You're
that,
paying
over
the
there,
kind,
not only that over there, because it says by Ammon and Moab, don't look for good for them, because if you're gonna, it leads to cruelty. If you're gonna be compassionate to them, you're gonna become cruel. And in fact, David HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Medrash says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ata tavar dvarai, ani katavti lo tidrosh lomam v'tovatam, ve'ata oseh imam gmilos chesed, al tihi tzadik harbe, shlo yeh adam avasar la Torah, v'zeh sholech l'nachem b'nei amon l'asot imo chesed, sof ba l'idei bizoyon. We're going to see the avodim of David are going to be humiliated. So we have some shilas. How did David do this? If in fact there's a medrash that sort of is chastising David for doing it, how could David go against the Torah?
well, wasn't he just repaying the kindness that was done to his relative?
So why didn't he return chesed while Ammon was still alive? Why did he wait until his son? So the Kli Yakar explains a little bit like Ellen that the Isser is you can't out of the blue go say Shalom Aleichem to them or do something good to them when it's not warranted. So because he had to repay a good that was done to him, that his brother was saved, he was mechuyev to return back that. Now, the Ramban learns even better. Why is there an Isser that we're not allowed lo tidrosh lomam b'tovatam? Says the Ramban in Dvorim, Chav Gimel. The cholatam shel Isser lo tidrosh lomatam umishum she'Ammon u'Moav hayu kfuyi toiva. Ammon and Moab represented the opposite of Hakaras HaTov. All of our Torah is full of Hakaras HaTov. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's not allowed to hit the Nile to become Dam. Why? Because the Nile saved him. How could he hit the Nile if that would be Kfuyi Toiva rather than Hakaras HaTov? And on and on and on. There's so many examples of Hakaras HaTov. Now, by Ammon and Moab, who did Avram save? Lot, right? And who are the children of Lot? Ammon and Moab. And they had to be Mishalim Tov Yisrael. When Klal Yisrael was trying to come into Eretz Yisrael, they didn't bring water and bread. So that judged them forever, and you can't even marry into them. Ammon and Moab, you're not allowed to marry them, except the women. So David said, if they did us a toiva, we have to go back, bend backwards to show that we're not like that. And therefore, if he did me a toiva, I've got to pay it back. I think it's a good shot. So if that's the case, other Meforshim ask, why does the Medrash say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a taina on him? So yesh loymar sheyatzorech lasos ken miyad lasos chesed l'nachash l'misha salah chesed. He shouldn't have waited until Nachash died. He should have done it. He should have returned Hakaras HaTov to Nachash himself while he was alive. And that's why maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a problem with him. And okay, by Pasuk Gimel. Vayomru sarev ne'amon el chanun adonehem. So the officers tell the king Hanun, do you think David is showing you respect that he sent you these people that are coming to be menachem? No, these are spies. They're coming to overturn the city. So they put a bad thought into Hanun's mind. ויקח חנון את עבדי דוד ויגלח את חצי זקנם. He shaves off half of their beard. ויכרות את מדוויהם. And he actually cuts off their clothing b'chatzi ad shesoseim vayishalchem, so that like their bottom is revealed. He humiliates them. And he sends them back with a half-shorn beard and their clothes cut to their waist. David finds out about it. They were embarrassed. Stay in Yericho until your beards grow back, and then you'll be able to come back. One of the questions the Meforshim ask: how is it permitted for them to stay in Yericho? There was a cherem by Yoshua that you cannot rebuild Yoshu. You cannot, after your Yericho was destroyed. So Yoshua pronounced a cherem, nobody can live there. So the Radak in the Lochim explains that there was only an issur to build it. But if somebody built it, you could live there. And Meshach Chochmah also answers the same way in Dvorim. Later on in Melachim, it says, Chi al nenash b'misas bonav ki bonas Yericho. You're talking about hundreds of years later, there was a man, the Chiel, who was punished by his children dying because he built Yericho. Now, how could it be that in the times of David, it was already built? If in Melachim, they tell us that this guy built it. So, Rav Chaim Berlin, the son of the Netziv, answers, there was people living in Yericho even from the time of the Shoftim. Because it says in Shoftim, Uvnei Keni, Hossein Moshe, the family of Yisro, Alu me'irat marim et Yehuda, the irat marim hi Yericho. So there were people living there for a long time. It's one of the oldest cities on record. That immediately after Yoshua made a cherem, the Canaanim came and built it. And they explained that Chiel built another city, Yericho, not the same Yericho. Vayrub Ne'amon kinevashu b'David. So they know that David is upset because he saw that David saw that his messengers had been humiliated. So they know David is a warrior. He's going to come and fight them. So Vaishlachub Ne'amon vayskru esaram beis Rechov esaram tzova. There were a number of Arams. We learned it last time. There's Aram Damesek. There's Aram Tzova, which is Aleppo. There's this Aram Beis Rechov. These are all Syria, different areas in Syria. So he hired an army in Syria, Esrim Elef Ragli, 20,000 soldiers. Ves Melech Macha Elefish, Melech Macha with 1,000 people. The Ish Tov, Shnei Masar Elefish. So a large army is being hired by Bnei Ammon because Ammon knew by themselves they would not be able to defend themselves against David without help from others. Vayishma David vayishlach et Yoav v'kol hatzava hagiborim. David sends his army with Yoav as the general. Now, in the previous Prakim, David HaMelech was doing the fighting, not Yoav. All of a sudden here, Yoav is sent. Very interesting. Some of the Meforshim, the Abarbanel says, David didn't want to go by himself to take bragging rights away from the king of Ammon. That not to let Ammon know, that you're fighting with the king of Israel. He didn't want to give him that satisfaction. Other pshat that is brought, that David realizes that this is a punishment, that he sent shluchim to Ammon because of this don't do toivas and lo tidrosh lo matam v'tovatam. So he knew that this whole crisis is his doing. Just like the Kohen Meshuch Milchama, when there's the Jewish army, they tell people who have an Aveira, go home, right? They send those people home. They don't go out to do battle with the army of Israel. So David as well somehow felt that maybe his Aveira brought this on, so he didn't want to go with the army. So therefore he sent Yoav himself. So the Ammonites are in their gate. They're in the field. They divided themselves into two camps. And L'chura, the Jewish army is in the middle. The Jewish army went towards Ammon, and some say it's referring to the city of Amman. And the Ammonites are in the city of Amman. Here's the army, and all of a sudden the Syrians are coming from behind them. Vayar Yoav, pasuk tes. Ki hayta lav pnei milchama mipanim u'me'achor. He has army in front, army in back. So vayivchar mikol bachorei Yisrael vayaroch likrat aram. He chooses his best soldiers. He recognizes that the Syrian threat is a greater threat. He puts them in the back. Ve'at yeter ha'am natan biyad Avshai achiv vayaroch likrat bnei Ammon. The rest of the people Yoav gives to his brother Abishai to fight with the Ammonites in front of them. Vayomer im techzak hara mimeni v'hayta li lishua v'im bnei Ammon yachziku mimcha v'alachti lo shielach. It means if the Aram are too difficult, we'll come and help there. And if Ammon is too difficult, we'll come and help in either direction. Chazak v'nischazek be'ad Ameinu. Yoav gives them chizuk in a double language. Chazak v'nischazek uva'ad arei Elokeinu, and on behalf of the cities of Hashem. V'Hashem yaseh tov beinav. Yoav shows tremendous bitachon on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says everything is in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands. Now he had fear. He also may have known, say the Meforshim, that this was due to the sin of David, of Lo Tidrosh Shlomo Shlomo Tov. The Ralbag though says, Lamadnu mizeh she'ein roi lismoch al hanes. You see, Yoav is preparing an army. You can't be soymech al hanes. You have to do everything you can, yishtadel as much as possible. Now, the language of chizuk here. The Gemara in Brachos Lamed Beis Amud Beis. Om Rav Chama Brab Chanina Imro Adam Shispalo V'lo Naneh Yachzor V'Yispalo. The person davens, he sees not answer, he should daven again. Shenemar Kaveh Lashem Chazak V'Yametz Libecha V'Kaveh Lashem. Kaveh means to daven. So if you're not answered, daven again. Rashi there says, Ton Rabbanon, Arba Tzrichin, or the Gemara over there says, Ton Rabbanon, Arba Tzrichin Chizuk. There are four things that require Chizuk. Says Rashi, she's Chazik Adam Bahem Tamid B'chol Kocho. You got to put all your strength in these things. Eluhein, Torah, Maisim Toivim, Tefillah, V'derech Eretz. Derech Eretz means your profession. Im Umanhu, if you're a professional, Lu'uman Aso, you need Chizuk for your profession. Im Soicherhu, you're a businessman, L'schoiroi. Im Ish Melchamo L'mchata. Whatever you see, Derech Eretz then was either to be a professional, a business person, or an army person. Now, Torah Umasim Tovim Minayim Shneimar Rak Chazak Ve'ematz Me'od Lishmor V'lasot K'chol HaTorah. Chazak V'Torah V'ametz B'masim Tovim. So that's where we know that Torah and Tfil and Masim Tovim need Chizuk. Tefillah Minayim Shneimar Kavil Hashem. When you daven to Hashem, Chazak V'yametz Libecha, you should have Chizuk V'Kavil Hashem. Derech Eretz Minayim Shneimar Chazek V'Nischazek B'ad Ameinu, right here. So the tzivui of Chizuk for Derech Eretz is this statement of Yoav.
Bernie, just a question. Is this where the custom comes in Sahal before they go into battle, that they probably, besides getting themselves ready, say these tefillot?
Which tefillot?
Just to be mispalel before you go into battle. But as you're saying, Chazak v'metzibach v'kavel Hashem.
Yeah, but you say, okay, I don't know if that's.
I don't know. I'm just asking you if it's.
No, they
v'kavel-
say there's a whole ma'arech.
There-
It's
there-
a very long tefillah before they go into battle. There's
Okay,
a whole.
That's
But maybe based on this, what we're seeing here.
maybe.
One thing I don't get, Yoav has a battle plan. You know, he's gonna put some people in the front, in the back, so when he says it's all up to Hashem, didn't he, his shtadlus?
So that's why the Ralbag says, Lamadnu mizeh, she'ein roy lismoch al hanes, roy she'ishtadel ha'adam b'tzalos l'fi ma she'efshar. Va'az yazor Hashem yisparach. You have both. You got to prepare, and then you have this bitachon. He had tremendous bitachon.
But he's also saying that even if you do all your ishtadlas, and if that doesn't work and and you fail, then that's what Hashem has wanted. Hashem did not want you to succeed.
Yeah,
So you have to accept that as well.
yeah, it's both. By the way, I want to go deeper into this chizuk, and Rashi says, Kloimar shetzarich ha'adam lachzor v'lasot et hadavar od v'od. V'lo li'tyaesh menu. Don't give up hope. Mishum shel b'sof ya'alev yatzliach b'chol ma'ela. When it comes to Torah, masim tovim, tefillah, and even your parnasa, stick it out. Do it. Keep your nose to the grind. Don't lo li'tyaesh. Mishum shel b'sof ya'alev yatzliach. You have to be a masmid, and you have to be choizer all the time. They were successful. The Aramites ran away. The Ammonites ran away the other way.
We've lost.
And then Yoav goes back to Shalim. However, the Aramites sort of regather. Vaishlach Hadezer, remember we met him last time. He's one of the kings of the Aramites. There's if them Shovach is related to Goliath, and he's now the leader. The Medrash Shmuel says, Asara oivim hayulolo David. Chamisha b'Yisrael v'chamisha b'umas ha'olam. He had 5 Jews who were his enemy, and 5 like warriors by the Goyim. Who are the Jews? Doeg, Edomi, Achitofel, Shaul, Shimi ben Gera, Vesheva ben Bichri. And who are the Chamisha b'umas ha'olam? Goliath, Ushloishes Achiv and his 3 brothers, Veshovach, which is this general. Vayugadu David. So David now is told that this force is coming to him. Now David himself, he crosses the Jordan. And David and the Jewish army with the Aramite army have a battle. David kills 700 chariots, 40,000 infantry. That Shovach Sartzvo Hika Vayamacham, and he kills Shovach. Vayiru Kolam Lachim Avdei Desert, so they are fearful now. Kinikfu Lifnei Yisrael, they fall in front of Yisrael. Vayashlimu et Yisrael, they made peace. Vayavdum, they became subservient to David. Vayiru Aram Loshia Oded Ne'aman, and they did not come to the aid of the Arameans anymore, of the Ammonites anymore. So we continue to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu is causing David HaMelech to be matzliach in his wars, etc. And now this sets the stage for the next episode in David HaMelech's life. Any questions, comments, ha'aros, other things?
And how old is David at this stage? He was what, 30?
He was 30 when he ruled. So this is, maybe somewhere between 30 and 40.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful.
What
Wonderful.
happened to your finger?
What was that?
What happened to your finger?
I have a little bit of a trigger finger. So I
Ah.
just, my daughter created this little splint for me at night, so I don't have to bend it. Hopefully, I'm taking some anti-inflammatories and it'll,
Hopefully. it'll
just
get
She
so that I
an
get
she's
through
an
night-
OT? Is she an OT?
Yeah, my
Great.
daughter's an OT, yeah.
Mhm. I've
So
got an
you
OT.
had
daughter
the
too.
trigger finger they injected.
I know, I've had I've had a trigger finger injected before, which worked very well. This is a different finger. The only thing is, when they injected me, I had a little numbness because they injured one of the nerves when they did the injection. So the numbness finally has gotten better. So I'm a little hesitant about that. So I'm hoping that it'll get better.
Where's
Just
that splint? I don't see it.
It just at night, so you don't bend it.
When you're sleeping,
Mm,
Sleep, just at night.
but we just can't. got it.
I hope it gets better.
Does it interfere with surgery?
I don't want, yeah,
No,
you